How are you? Okay. So, I think people are on vacation. People are on
How are
vacation.
you doing?
I'm good. I actually just came back from the beach, so I am
Ah,
happy to be
okay.
back. But I had to take care of
Ah,
some things for my mom since I was away. So thank you for the
sure,
flexibility.
sure,
How are you?
sure.
How are you?
Good, good, good.
Okay. Well, so we're already recording. What I want to do today is hopefully you got a chance to see the last webinar on the moon. Um, and if not, it's okay, but it would be helpful for anyone who's going to watch this on the replay. Definitely watch the last webinar on the moon sign. And I think one of the important things, like besides knowing what your moon sign is, like what for any placement, you always want to first connect to the element of the sign and then the sign itself, and then you can look at the house, right? Those are like the basic things we're always looking at, apart from like what is the actual placement. And then the next level, which I think this is where we get into more intermediate astrology, is looking at the aspect, looking at the relationship that that placement has. Sometimes there is no aspect, right? But I think more than not, you're going to find some kind of aspect, right? And beginning to understand how that affects the energy. And since the moon is so critical, and in case you haven't noticed, I've been spending a lot of time lately on really understanding yourself emotionally. I think all of astrology is that because we're dealing with energy, but more importantly, it's understanding how to have like that intelligence, that emotional intelligence, and then knowing how to be able to communicate, because that's such a huge part of creating relationships, sustaining relationship, um, growing relationship, which is what business is based off of. So huge. If you have emotional intelligence, then I think that that is very supportive for life and for business. So what I want to do today is really connect into what your moon is, but also looking into the aspects and looking into like what are the energetics that might be influencing either definitely in a helpful way, but also I think what is in the blind spot, which could be a challenge, or it could be something you're totally aware of, but that you feel that there's like friction there. And we're going to see that a lot with oppositions, probably because they're like head on, but definitely we could also absolutely see them with squares, right, where they're at 90 degrees. And so let's start doing that. So Corey, since you're here, did you get to see the moon webinar? I'm going to pull out your chart.
I'm trying to unmute.
Yes, I can hear you. I was hearing you, but now I don't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I muted myself. First,
Perfect.
I'm muted. Yes, I did.
I can hear you now. And your birthday's tomorrow.
My birthday's tomorrow. Yes, and I know it's oh boy, what a great year. I know you told me that a while ago. Jupiter
Yes.
has entered. I can
Yes.
feel it too.
Oh,
I
good.
felt it
Yeah, this is a lucky
last
year
night.
for you.
I just
A lucky year. And also, I would say today probably feels lucky for you. It's a new moon. I believe it is today. So
yes.
when it's a new moon, it's always conjunct the sun. So they're hanging out right next to each other. So there's extra exciting energy, I would say, because you have the moon, the sun, and Jupiter. And I believe Jupiter is at 3 degrees or 5, like they're all conjunct next to each other. And it's in the house of transformation for you. So it's exciting.
Ah, yes.
Yes. So did you
Perfect.
yes, 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 yes. Oh, cool. This is fun. Okay, so we'll take a look first at the moon placement and how that affects. But first, did you watch the last webinar?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, oh, we actually have the same moon. So moon in Scorpio.
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So again, I think honestly, it took me a while to understand how to look at this, look at the chart, and right away be able to tell the aspects. It definitely for me was more challenging. It took longer to really like understand it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it took me a while, but now since I've been studying it more, just like comes like with anything,
Yeah.
keep studying repetition, and you kind of the pieces kind of fit.
Yeah, it's true. So here's your moon in the 12th house, which is also
Right.
where I have mine. Um, I'm I'm going to put you on the spot since you're here, but also we could just take it as an opportunity, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more just so we could really look at that moon and see what it's doing. So, when you look at your moon, what are some aspects that maybe jump out at you that you can maybe speak to with your moon?
Um, see, I'm not certain though with the aspects.
Uh-huh. Or
Um,
take a guess.
yeah, I'm not. I just mean like with the other symbols and stuff, things were like piecing together. When it comes to the aspects, or what were the squares?
Right. So there's
Kind of get a little boggled.
it's okay. It like again, I really feel like just this year. Like just this year, because when I went on the astrology cruise last year, it was around this time, and I was like, I am confused still. I don't get it. So it's been about a year-ish since, I feel a lot more connected to the aspects. So obviously it's the lines, right? So what you
Right.
want to do is you want to identify your moon, and you could start by the blue lines if you want to. And you're like, okay, here's the moon. What are the lines coming off of it that are touching that point? Now, again, it might be helpful to zoom in just so you could really see them.
Yeah.
And we can see that here's one blue line. It's going from the moon to the sun,
Ah, okay.
right?
Right.
And if I go back from the moon, I see that there's another blue line that's going from the moon to Mercury,
Ah, okay.
right? So those are two blue aspect lines. The blue lines are going to be like the beneficial flowing. If you want to think of water, water's blue, water flows. So there's like a fluidity. It's like beneficial. It's supportive. It's where things are going to feel a lot easier for you and where you will feel supported. Okay.
Okay.
Now, looking at this, I believe these two I think these are sextiles, and we're going to check it in a second. Now, the great thing about Astro is that it does give you the chart in the bottom,
Right.
right? So and you could read it both ways, like let's say we're going to look at, here's the moon, and then,
Right.
it's a trine. It's not a sextile, it's a trine to the sun, because there's the triangle.
Ah,
Here's
okay.
the sun.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, what you said before, like knowing the symbols is very helpful,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if we look here at the moon, we could also look at it from the top. It has a trine. Here's the triangle
Ah,
to Mercury. But those were the two lines that I drew, right?
okay. Yes.
So I've identified, and they're big ones, right? Because we're talking about the biggest luminary in the sky. making like this positive angle to Mercury, which is one of the personal planets, all about communication and thinking.
Right.
What would you say about that? Like what? Like if you had to take a guess, like we know what Mercury is about, we know what the sun is about. Like their help, and always you want to look at in a relationship, which is the aspect. What's the biggest influencing energy? So if we look at moon and sun, which would you say is one of the bigger influencing energies?
Um, I have to say let me see. Bigger? Aren't they kind of like the same? Like in a sense.
That's a good way of looking at it, right? But
Yeah, but one is bigger than the other.
one is bigger than the other, yes. So I feel like you already know the answer. So the sun, right? Like the sun has a stronger influence over the moon, is what I would say.
Then it would be the sun. It's got
Right.
more.
So
Right.
and
Okay.
then we all, because we're putting pieces together, right? So we already said that the moon, so we're always talking about identifying what is the heavenly body or the placement. So we're talking about the moon. It's in the sign of Scorpio, right? Which is water. And where is it? It's in the 12th house, which is all about the subconscious and your intuition and like connecting to what's unseen, right? Like that's the energy of that house, ruled by Pisces. And
Right.
look at where the sun is. The sun is in Cancer, which is a water sign,
Yes.
and it's in the 8th house, which is all about going deep, like getting to the heart of something, like touching the core of the truth, um, transforming, like letting go of something. It's about death and rebirth, right? So
Yes.
the sun's essence is like the ego. It's like like the biggest light, which your sun sign. How would you say the sun is supporting your moon?
Uh, well, I guess it keeps a balance.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. It does keep it balanced. Um, the other thing to look at that I didn't mention, when we're looking at aspects, is also the degrees, right? Which we're gonna get into degrees, but we see that here your moon is at 10 degrees and your sun is at 4 degrees, so that's just a 6 degree of separation, which is pretty significant because we're talking about two of the closer heavenly bodies to the Earth. So it's balanced. There's like an affinity because they're both water. But what do you think your sun is helping your moon do? And you put together the pieces like, okay, where's this happening?
Okay. Uh, Let me see. The sun's helping to balance my emotions.
Yep. And in what way? Like, okay, where is it? And what is Cancer all about?
Oh, Cancer's the water sign. That's my sun sign. Very sensitive, intuitive, empathic, nurturing. Um, the mother of all the signs.
Mm-hmm. How do
Um,
you think that energy helps you emotionally?
oh, big time, because my moon being in Scorpio, Scorpio is very intense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's good points to all of the signs. Every sign's got
Yeah.
good and like the high points and the low points. Um, but Scorpio, I understand so much more in the past few years about myself. Well, I always knew I had an intensity with
Yeah.
my moon being in Scorpio, you know. So thankfully, the sun has helped that a tremendous amount, because I don't get and I get, you get it more as you get older, with each year passing, you just understand. You understand a lot more things, why things happen, why they didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I think
helps you understand yourself.
I think it can be that way. The other thing too, Scorpio is very private, very secretive.
Yes.
It could be a little distrusting, and I feel like this sun trine your moon, sun in Cancer trine your moon is helping you to trust yourself more.
Yes.
Like really trust your own intuition, like trust your dreams, even like really look into like why maybe you have certain kinds of dreams, like really connect into your intuition, but not in an obsessive, because Scorpio can be obsessive, so not in an obsessive way, but more of like a knowing way.
Yes.
Like a trusting way. And this has been a very transformative process for you, because look, we're talking, I would say the 8th and the 12th houses are the most mystical, mysterious. I feel like they're the most mysterious houses, because we are talking about the unseen. The 8th house being like the house of death, and very deep transformation, and the 12th house being like when you go back into the subconscious it's like being in the womb here, where you're not out in the world. You submerge yourself back into this space of preparing to be reborn and going through this cycle again,
Yes.
That's this process here. And it's so you always, when you're looking at any aspect, it is helpful to look at the house, right? And I'm going to say sometimes it might be easier when you finally start understanding like the basic components of astrology, that you can start looking at somebody else's chart and starting to interpret it. Definitely reading other charts. And I think we're going to do that assignment in here, just to start reading each other's charts, because this way it's like, sometimes it's hard to see what's right in front of you, meaning yourself.
Yeah.
Just to start honing into the ability of how to read a chart, like how do you make sense of this? And it's like, okay, well, if I understand what the sun is and what it represents, what the moon is, if I get the energies of each of the signs that they're in, and if I'm putting together like, where is this occurring? What houses is it occurring, and what's the relationship between each other? There's a supportive energy, right? Then I can start putting together, like, it's like a story, it's a puzzle, right? And then when you start working on a jigsaw puzzle and you start seeing the picture of it, that's how astrology works, right? Okay, so you also have, and now this is a shorter degree of influence between the moon at 10 and Mercury at 14. It's 4 degrees of difference, right? So what would you say about now between Mercury and the moon, which one would you say is like a bigger influence?
I would say the moon.
Yeah, me too, actually. And just like so everybody knows, the way that Mercury moves around the Earth, there are times when Mercury is actually closer to the Earth. However, the moon is the biggest, brightest secondary luminary to the sun, right?
Right.
So what would you say, how does Mercury support the moon? And maybe how is the moon influencing the way you think, the way you communicate?
Right. The moon, it's all emotional. So, and because of being in Scorpio, it gets very deep. My emotions get very deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I see where it has, carried me in the past. Certain things like I hung on to when I could have just um, you know, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, as well, not with all of us, but you would think with all of us, but I guess with some of us, as you know, move on life, you want to let go of things. You don't want to hang on to what was, and
Yeah.
things and situations and places and people that didn't work out or whatever. So you just let it go.
What do you so remember, so I think that's a really good observation, right? And if we're talking about the quality of the aspect, meaning this is a trine, right? So this is basically a triangle, and it's a supportive energy, right? So how has your inner emotional world supported your way of thinking and your way of communicating?
Because with that, um, I went inward and I
Mm-hmm.
said, let me, I have to filter out, things. And this has started, from a long time ago. Um, and that's why I got into my whole thing of, the whole being healthy aspect, and meditation. And that's helped me tremendously.
Taking care of self.
Yes.
That's the perfect, honestly, that's so perfect because this is the house of inward. This is the subconscious, right? So it's like you going inwards has helped you in the way that you think and in your ability. I'm going to say it's taught you emotional intelligence
Yes.
so that it's been a transformative process for you, and this is what helps you help others transform themselves.
Yes.
Hmm. Very cool. All right. And if we were to look at this moon, and now looking at like the harsher or harder aspects, what do you find? What do you think is here? And you don't have to tell me what the aspect is, just moon having a difficult aspect to what planet, maybe.
Um, Let me see. Huh. That I'm not certain of.
So remember the harsher aspects. So again, I'm going to think of like this could be blue for the easier aspects, could be we can connect it to water. And then the harder aspects, which are red, here's one, right? I think that might be the only one actually from the moon, um, is like fire, like it could be destructive, right?
Yes.
So, and do you know what planet this is?
Is that Uranus?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Uranus and the moon, this is a square,
Okay.
right? Because it's a 90-degree angle. So we already know what the moon is about. This is the inner emotional world. It's happening. It's very subconscious. It's in a water sign. And this is Leo up here, which is a fire sign. What do we know about Uranus? What is Uranus about?
Uranus is transformational.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a pretty intense planet.
Why do you say so?
Um, I guess from reading things in astrology.
How does it transform?
Um, hmm,
What is one of its characteristics, or what sign does it rule over?
Well, it rules. Does it rule over Leo?
No.
No. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Um,
It's in Leo for you.
right. I've gotten confused with that. Right.
Yeah.
That's that's my chart. Um, what sign rules?
What
Um,
sign does Uranus rule?
oh, um,
I'm totally putting you on the spot.
no, it's okay. It's a good way to learn.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Is it Pluto? No.
Here, I'm going to zoom out so you can see all of the signs.
Let me see. Uranus. Is Uranus rules Scorpio?
Nope.
No. Okay. At least I guessed.
So, okay, I think the first thing you said was interesting because you're like, it's very transformational. Yes, it is, but why, right? So, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune are the farthest out planets. They're far out there. So, they are very, I'm going to say they're very catalytic, especially on a collective level, right? Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius,
Ah.
which is
Okay.
right across. But it's
Okay.
interesting because I actually think so when a planet is in the opposite sign that it is its home sign, it's in a fall. We haven't talked about this yet. These are specifics of aspects, right? Which means it's in a fall because it's so far away from its home sign that it feels weird here. It's like I don't really understand this energy. I'm so far away from like my natural habitat, right? Aquarius is an air sign. Aquarius is about community and the collective and humanity. It's a humanitarian. It's very futuristic. It's very future oriented. It's about we. It's the we energy. Where Leo is very me.
Ah. Okay.
Me energy. Look at me. It's ruled by the sun. It's a fire sign. It's a lot more intense in its feelings emotionally, where air signs not so much. Air signs can really wear a mask or just be a little, I don't know, Libra can be pretty fake. Gemini can just not pay attention to emotions. Aquarius is like, what about everybody else? So this is very about me and how I feel and me being in the spotlight. And so Uranus feels really off and weird here because it's in a fall, because it's opposite from where its home is. So if we're talking about Uranus having a square to the moon, this is causing some tension. Now, if we look at the degrees, here, let me make this bigger again. If we look at the degrees between Uranus and the moon is at 10, Uranus is at 9. That's just 1 degree of difference. So there's a big influence here. This is a big deal, actually. Now, if you had to take a guess, what is more influential, Uranus or the moon?
The moon.
No, it's
No.
actually Uranus. Always when we're dealing with one of the outermost planets, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, it's always going to be the outermost planet.
Oh. Okay.
Because even though it's very far away, its energy is so potent. I'm trying to make like boom energy. Its energy is so potent that not only is it acting on an individual level, it's acting on a collective level. So this is a very big energy and it's causing a lot of friction over your moon. And it's just a 1 degree apart. And now we talk about the houses. We said this was very subconscious, very private, very inwards, right? Very, what do we know about the ninth house?
Um, let me see.
What is the ninth house about? Without looking, do you remember what is the ruling energy, the ruling sign of the ninth house?
Let me see. Sagittarius.
Right. Sagittarius
Right.
is also a fire sign. What do we know about Sagittarius? You have yours in your first sign. What do we know about Sagittarius? What are some
Oh,
characteristics?
Sagittarius. Very quick, loves to learn, very fiery, um, philanthropher.
Yeah. I would say that's more an Aquarius. But
Okay. Loves
is
teaching,
yes,
studying.
yep. Is Sagittarius more inward or outward?
Oh, Sagittarius is more outward.
Yeah, it's out in the world. It's out there. It's traveling. It's exploring, right? So the ninth house is the house of being out in the world, exploring, learning, traveling, studying, teaching. It is very spiritual, so there's like an element of faith there, right? So there's a tension between like what Uranus wants you to do differently, right? Uranus, remember, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about standing out and being different, just so that it can attract its like community. So Uranus wants you to take charge, be a leader, be in the spotlight a little bit more, and that frightens you. That doesn't feel so good to the moon in Scorpio, which is like, I just want to go inside.
Yeah, right.
I just want to connect with me and what's happening with me, and I just want to like be with myself. And so these are the learning curves that we have as human beings, right? So this is
Yes.
a big one. I would do some studying around this moon square Uranus. And I would even look moon in Scorpio square Uranus and Leo. Moon in Scorpio in the 12th house, square Uranus and Leo in the ninth house. They're very different energies.
Ah, okay.
But that's how we start to put like the pieces together and start to see um again like what's going on. And sometimes like this chart will give you, let me see if I can find one. The chart will say, oh, this is a square, but maybe the degrees between, this is Mercury right here. Let me make this a whole lot bigger. Let's say, for example, it's like it's telling me that that your Mercury is square your Mars, right? So if I go and look, let's see what the degrees of difference are between. So here's Mercury. It's at 14 degrees. And where is, oh, okay. And if I look to see where you're more, okay, so that actually, that is a big square because it's just 1 degree of difference. This is at 13. Your Mars is at 13 and your Mercury is at 14. But it might tell me, for example, here, I think this might be a good one. It's saying your Jupiter is square your Mercury. Mercury's at 14 degrees and Jupiter is, I think it's at 21 and 14. I think the difference is 7. Oh, it still counts 7 degrees, but sometimes you'll get like 13 degrees of separation between something. Like here, maybe Saturn's at 21, Pluto's at 0. I wouldn't count that, even though they're marking it. That's 21 degrees of separation. That's way too big, especially with this Pluto, which is so far away. I wouldn't do more than like 3 degrees separation. Does this make sense?
Yes, it's starting to filter in.
it's again, astrology is a language, and we're learning it in parts and pieces because that is how you learn language. You can't just from one day to the next already start to conjugate verbs and all of that because it's going to get very confusing. So this is why we learn it in parts, right? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. But this is why we learn it in parts, right? First, understanding the players. Well, really, first understanding the signs. And even before that, okay, they're inside of the system and there's 4 elements because there's layers of archetypes, right? So it's
Right.
the elements, which we all know what the elements are. I think that is very helpful to first identify that and then to understand, okay, what is the sign? What are their energies? And then what are the planets? What are their symbols? What are the houses about? And then once you have all of that, then you can start looking at the aspects and the degrees of influence. So we're gonna go more into, which we haven't covered at all yet, the modality of each of the signs, right? Which would be fixed, mutable, cardinal, right? Those would be, excuse me, fixed. First it would be fixed, then mutable, then cardinal, which basically just says this is the beginning of the energy. This is where it's starting to change, and then it becomes, and then the beginning of the energy where it fixes its energy, and then when it starts to shift into the next element. So it's all about the elements and how it really speaks a lot to the energy that is felt in that sign. So it's another way to understand the sign even more. So we're going to go into that, and we're going to go more into aspects because I think that that really is the key to really be like, oh, I get that relationship. I understand like the either the way it flows or the way I feel confronted, or there's like a tension or a push and pull, and it all has to do with the aspects.
Wow.
Was there, wait, there was one more thing. Hold up a second. I want to share one more time because we didn't look real quick. But again, I would say practice just looking at the chart first and locating whatever position we're talking about. And here in this example, we were talking about the moon. That's what we're exploring. It's okay, what's my moon doing? First, what are the blue lines coming off of it? Where is it going? What other planet is it touching? I would write it down, and then I would also write down the degrees between the two, right? So my moon at 10, Mercury at 14, moon at 10, sun at 4. We actually, I think in one of the webinars, one of the homeworks was to start making a list of all of your planets and what degree and what sign and house it was in, just to have like a little cheat sheet, which in essence is kind of like the key. It's kind of like the key that astro.com provides for you, but like you writing it out for yourself, because I think it helps you to understand what's going on. So the same way that we looked at the positive aspects, you want to do the same for the, and I'm going to look here at the moon column. Look at the more difficult aspects. And I think you only had that square Uranus. It's telling me that you have a conjunction with Neptune, your moon. I wouldn't count it. This is an example of something that maybe I wouldn't count, because remember, your moon is at 10 degrees and your Neptune's at 2 degrees. That's 8 degrees of separation with an outer planet that's far away. I wouldn't go more than like 3 degrees. It depends. Sometimes there's 5. I would ask myself, okay, what does that mean? Conjunctions are an interesting aspect. I think it just like expands whatever the energy is there. It could be good, it could be helpful, or it could be like a little troublesome, you know?
Okay.
In your case, like if we were to analyze, like, what does that mean? You know, and here we see it, they're right next to each other. Like what how is that influencing you? You know, Neptune's a faraway planet. What sign does Neptune rule? Do you remember?
Um, oh, no.
Pisces.
Pisces.
It is in a comfortable place because this is the natural home of Pisces, the 12th house. So
Oh,
Neptune is very dreamy. It's very like visionary and very like spiritual, and but the same way, like you said, there's two sides. Like there's two sides of the coin. So there's this very like dreamy, intuitive sort of ability that can sometimes get foggy. You know, it has a lot to do with like the third eye. You know, maybe it doesn't always see clearly. You know, so how does that affect you emotionally? Maybe I think you said it, you've reacted to things that maybe they weren't quite that way,
yes.
right? Like
Yes.
it might have tended to make your intuition foggy. I wouldn't give it such huge influence because it's 8 degrees of separation away, which for me feels a little far away for an outer planet. Some astrologers say between 3 and 5 degrees. Some say between 1 and 3 degrees of separation between all of the outer planets and aspects. That's something. It's something I really think that it's you knowing yourself and asking yourself. And maybe it was that way more in your younger
Yeah.
life, and maybe
Yes.
now not so much. You know. So again, it's a language, and it's learning how to read it. But that's what I would say is first eyeballing, and you could do this for any of these. First eyeballing, what are the aspects, the positive aspects, what are the more difficult aspects? You don't have any oppositions with your moon. And then I would look at the key and just verifying it for yourself. Maybe you saw one, maybe there was one that you didn't quite see. Um, and then asking, and then starting to put it together by sign, by house. You know, how is it all interplaying with each other? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great. Very interesting.
I really like it. I feel like it adds a whole nother
Me
dimension
too.
to really understanding yourself, really understanding your chart. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so we're going to do a second part of the moon signs for the upcoming webinar. And we're going to do the influence of all of the other planets because that first part one did Mercury. Well, I did your rising sign, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. I believe that those were the ones that I did, and sun sign.
Right.
Those. So we'll do all of the outer. So it'll be Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune for the other ones. And I think I may include the midheaven because I don't think did I include the midheaven in the first one? I can't remember.
I
But
don't think so.
no. So, okay, keep exploring.
Great. Oh, thank you so much. This is great. I
You're
loved it.
welcome. You're welcome. All right. I
All
will
right.
see you in 2 weeks.
Yes. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.